And today we're going to get into Isaiah Thomas. We're going to get into the season, which starts Tuesday, believe it or not. This show's dropping on Friday, so we are just days away from Cleveland. We don't know if LeBron's playing. We don't know a lot about what the team's going to look like, even though we saw a 4-0 perfect preseason at this point. There's still so many questions to be answered, but I'm not going to answer them alone today. With us is one of the newest writers at Celtics blog. You probably know him well at this point. Covered the Celtics in the past for WEEI. He's with CLNS Media now, from Foxborough covering the Patriots all the way up to Boston in the North End covering the Celtics. He has been working. He's been working hard, and he's with us tonight working again. Mike Petraglia, Trags, is with us today. Welcome.
Thanks, Bobby. It's a labor of love, I can assure you that. I wouldn't do what I do unless I loved it, and I'm very, very honored and privileged to be doing what I'm doing, and I'm honored and privileged to be joining you, Bobby. I'm looking forward to this.
This is great. We've been trying to get everybody on Celtics blog on. It's been great having you aboard so far, so let's waste no time and get into this Sports Illustrated article. It was the perfect combination. Lee Jenkins, Isaiah Thomas, pretty much the perfect combination you can find right there. And I had everything from his kids, their reaction to the trade, the move to Ohio, and most juicy of all, I think, is the information about the injury, the process he went through, who he talked to about it. And I think number one on my list of most interesting things coming out of this one was the fact that he leaned on Brian Kelly, a private doctor, through this, said he was the one who told him that he'd be fine to come back, just rest it, and do not get surgery, and that pretty much ended up being the route he went this offseason. So there's so much to uncover about this. What was really your biggest takeaway from this?
Well, I think there was a lot of regret, Bobby. I don't think there's any question that when you read that story by Lee Jenkins, you get the sense that there was regret in how Isaiah went about addressing his injury and putting his career, I think essentially is the gist you get from him, his career online for a team that had the chance to go to the NBA Finals. And obviously part of his dream was to go to the NBA Finals with the Celtics, win it in Boston. But the other thing that clearly jumps out is that, you know, a day after his sister passed away, he was putting his career on the line. He was putting himself out on the court because he wanted to do this for the city of Boston. He obviously knew that he had a family tragedy to deal with, but he really thought that by showing the loyalty and the service to the Celtics, they would repay him in kind. And that is really, to me, at the heart of the betrayal that Isaiah Thomas feels. And I got to tell you, in Danny Ainge's comments on Thursday, he essentially acknowledges that if I were Isaiah, I could understand feeling that way as well. But certainly from our point of view, and he said this Wednesday, actually, he said, look, I think you all, meaning the media reporters around Danny, know how I feel about Isaiah, and you know how much we loved Isaiah. So, you know, I think that's where that dynamic stands at this point. Will it move off that center point in the next couple of weeks as the season begins? I don't think so. I think, you know, there's a lot of hurt, a lot of betrayal that Isaiah feels towards the way the Celtics handled him. Not necessarily the city of Boston, but the way the Celtics handled him. And that's going to take a while to heal.
He explained everything really well in there, and he's been talking about it for a few months now, the feelings he went through this trade, and just how, yeah, but like you said, betrayed he felt, and it's really hard not to feel those same feelings reading that as well. And it's interesting because we Celtics have moved on, a lot of Celtics fans have moved on, it feels like, and the big theme of this article is that ensuing revenge, you know, not against the city of Boston inherently, but against anyone who doubted Isaiah again. He's getting ready for that next round, whether it was Sacramento, Phoenix. He's made all these teams pay for giving up on him, and he says it right out there. He thinks the Celtics made a mistake. He thinks they made the wrong move, and, you know, we can kind of go back and forth on that. I at first thought it was a mistake. Now with the injury things that have followed up, I feel much better about it, especially with what they got back in return. You couldn't ask for much better than that. But
right.
he says they lost their heart and soul, and Jaylen Brown has talked about this, how they're a completely new team. The chemistry that they're going to have to develop has been widely publicized, and he might have a point there. I mean, they lost the core of this team.
Well, look, Terry Rozier admitted, right, about a week or so ago, admitted early in training camp, we expect some rocky road early in the season, and we expect there to be a transition period for us to adapt to each other and really get a sense of where the true leadership in this new locker room is. Now, I maintain that the real leader of that locker room and that dressing room is Marcus Smart. Was last year, will be again this year. He is the number one spokesman in that room, but I think Jaylen Brown's going to take a huge step in that regard in terms of being a leader in only his second year in the NBA. I think we're going to see a lot in Jaylen Brown that we saw of Marcus Smart in terms of taking leadership. But from what I see on the court, I don't know if there's going to be much struggle whatsoever. If Kyrie Irving's, Bobby, if Kyrie Irving stays healthy, and what we're seeing in terms of their switching off ball screens and how Brad Stevens is going to want them to play defense and whatnot, and their adjustments to other teams, the way they're defending Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, what I see early in the preseason, anyway, suggests to me that they're going to make this transition pretty fast, and they're going to be pretty darn good.
And I didn't have this down in my notes, but it's interesting. I asked this to Nick the other night, Nick Gelso, CLNS head founder, and he had a pretty interesting, all of our boss, the guy who's watching over us somewhere. He pretty much talked about this intensity in the locker room this year, being a much different mood than there was last year. You've been there for 2 games now in the preseason. What do you think of the atmosphere in that locker room now?
I think it's going to be more businesslike with Kyrie. I think there's less drama. I think Kyrie comes off to me as somebody who's going to go out of his way to be mellow. And, what you saw with Isaiah Thomas, he would literally put his heart on his sleeve, right? After every single game, he would tell you how he felt if the team played like crap. If the team played like crap, Isaiah would be pissed off in those post-game press conferences. I don't think that's going to be the same with Kyrie Irving. I think he's going to be much more corporate, if you will. He's going to be much more measured in what he says. We can already get a gist of what Kyrie's going to be like when he was asked the obvious question, less than a week away from playing in Cleveland and going back to play against your former team. What's that going to be like? And he said, it's just basketball. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, going to be the MO for Kyrie Irving all season long. He's going to try to, take the drama out of things and disarm things, if you will, so they don't become bigger than life. Because he knows after playing the last 5 years with LeBron, it's all been about drama in Cleveland, and for the most part of it, it's been good drama and exciting drama, but it's been all about drama. And I think Kyrie, part of him moving on to the Celtics, is about trying to turn over a new leaf and try a new approach when it comes to the locker room and the way he carries himself around the team.
That's very interesting, and he has definitely tried his best to completely mellow that LeBron-Kyrie storyline. We've heard a little bit more out of LeBron about the whole situation than we have out of Kyrie, but they've tried to keep that mellow right now, at least in the preseason. It's going to be something people talk about all season long, probably one of the more dominant storylines in the NBA next year. I mean, on this side, we got the whole Isaiah fallout. On that side, it's going to continue to be the Kyrie fallout, and how things went bad there with him on that end. Right now, it doesn't feel like there's going to be a lot of squandering between those two sides, but as the season develops, these are two teams that are going to be going head-to-head in the conference. Once the playoffs get here, it's probably going to be a different level of intensity. Do you think it's going to change at all, or are they just going to continue to shoot this down all season?
I think they're going to continue to shoot it down all season, and barring something we don't see coming down the pike, both of these teams are playoff caliber, elite playoff caliber teams, and most people have the Celtics and Cavaliers penciled in the Eastern Conference Finals again in the spring, and I would expect that's where we're headed as well, as long as LeBron stays healthy. But I think the Celtics are going to be a more dynamic team than even the Cavaliers. I didn't think so when that trade was first made, Bobby. I got to tell you that I thought the Celtics depth would be a really big issue. But after watching Terry Rozier and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, those three in the preseason, I grant you it's only preseason, my feelings in that regard have changed drastically. I think the Celtics are going to be as deep as the Cavaliers, and I think they are the two deepest teams, obviously, in the Eastern Conference.